Dear student, I am Dr. Prakash Mungli, Professor of Biochemistry. So in this lecture, I will be going over some of the inborn errors of amino acid metabolism. They are heart-valve disease, blue diaper syndrome, familial renal immunoglycinuria, hyperprolinemias, non-ketotic hyperglycinemia, and primary hyperoxaluria. Let's get into details. Heart-valve disease is because of impairment in the transport of neutral amino acids in the intestinal mucosa and also in the renal tubular. That means there is a dual effect here. One is in the intestine, other is in the renal tubular cells. So the amino aciduria involving large neutral amino acids like valine, isoleucine, leucine, tyrosine, phenylalanine and tryptophan is a prominent feature in heart-valve disease. So since tryptophan is one of the amino acids that is affected here, and tryptophan is the most remarkably affected amino acid in this particular disease, and that's why the signs and symptoms that you see in heart-valve disease is directly or indirectly related with the tryptophan. So deficiency of tryptophan results in pellagra like signs and symptoms, like patient will show diarrhea, dermatitis, dementia because of niacin deficiency. Why? Because in our body 60 milligram of tryptophan is equivalent to 1 milligram of niacin. So niacin is made from tryptophan. So tryptophan deficiency will lead to niacin deficiency, and niacin deficiency causes pellagra. Signs of pellagra are diarrhea, dermatitis and dementia. Also the accumulation of tryptophan in the intestine, because it is not absorbed by the intestinal cells, that's where is the defect, including a defect that is seen in renal tubular reabsorption. So presence of more tryptophan in the lumen of the intestine will undergo bacterial action, and the tryptophan will break into indole acetic acid and indolyl acetyl glutamine, which are coming from the bacterial degradation, and they will be absorbed by the intestinal cells, and they will contribute to neurological signs that we see in heart-valve disease. Remember that. So the degradation products of tryptophan in the intestine by the bacterial action like indole acetic acid and indole acetyl glutamine are causes for the neurological signs. Treatment includes a high protein diet and supplementation of nicotinamide just to replenish the niacin levels in the body. Coming to blue diaper syndrome and familial renal immunoglycinuria. It is because of defect in the amino acid transporter, because there is a defect in the protein that is helping in the transport of amino acids, especially for tryptophan. So absorption of tryptophan is defective in blue diaper syndrome, and that might lead to the signs and symptoms of niacin deficiency. Renal transport of glycine, proline and hydroxyproline are the ones that are impaired in familial renal immunoglycinuria. Coming to hyperprolinemias. Hyperprolinemias because of defect in proline metabolism. Deficiency of proline oxidase is the one that results in hyperprolinemia type 1. Deficiency in pyrroline carboxylate dehydrogenase enzyme results in hyperprolinemia type 2. Both are clinically harmless, and they are recessive trait, autosomal recessive trait. So they kind of benign diseases. Largely patients remain asymptomatic. Coming to non-ketotic hyperglycinemia. It is a rare disease inherited in an autosomal recessive manner. Glycine cleavage system is apparently absent here, which results in glycine levels to be increased in the blood, and glycine will be excreted in the urine. So that's what is non-ketotic hyperglycinemia is. Most patients die shortly after birth, and some survive with profound mental retardation in this particular disease. And our next disease is primary hyperoxaluria. So the primary hyperoxaluria is because of defect or deficiency in glycine transaminase enzyme, which is also called as alanine glyoxylate transaminase AGT. As you see here in the figure, so glycine metabolism which is going on in the peroxisome, especially the glyoxylate transamination is going on in the peroxisome done by glycine transaminase or alanine glyoxylate transaminase, where glyoxylate is converted to glycine while alanine is converted to pyruvate. So the defect in this transamination process will lead to elevation of glyoxylate, and that glyoxylate eventually coming out into the cytoplasm lead to formation of oxalate, and oxalate levels will be elevated in the blood leading to oxalosis, and oxalates can precipitate in the urine making oxalate stones, calcium oxalate stones, and these calcium oxalate stones can lead to a renal failure. So this is what we are going to see in primary hyperoxaluria, and that is what I have written here in brief. Deficiency is glycine transaminase in the liver, and note that this glycine transaminase is located in the peroxisome, which is also called as alanine glyoxylate transaminase. Accumulation of glyoxylate, and this glyoxylate can be oxidized to oxalate leading to increased levels of oxalate in the blood, which is called as oxalosis, and excess levels of oxalate in the urine leading to hyperoxaluria. And this oxalate in the urine, especially when the decrease in the urinary pH happens, that can lead to stone formation, calcium oxalate stone formation in the kidney and urinary bladder, which causes nephrocalcinosis, and that can lead to end stage renal failure even at early age. So that's all about other inborn errors of amino acid metabolism. So we have covered briefly Hartnup disease, blue diaper syndrome, familial renal iminoglycinuria, hyperprolinemias, non-ketotic hyperglycinemia, and primary hyperoxaluria. Thank you.